I call this meeting to order. Please join me in a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we have guests in the room that are interested in speaking tonight during the public forum, please fill out one of the gold sheets that are at the paper and turn them into the rewriting here in the gray top at the end of our meeting. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No, there are not.
If there are no adjustments, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the agenda.
There's a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Item B, recognition of board members for years of service to the students of Goshen County.
Can you hear me if I stand up? So tonight we want to recognize our board members as this is their last meeting serving the students of Goshen County. I would like to just extend a personal note to the four of you for your service. I appreciate your dedication, I'm sorry, this is impromptu, so your dedication to the students, your dedication to the position, your courage and your convictions, especially in light of recent events, doing what you feel is right. We can all learn from those examples, always doing what we feel is right and what is in the best interest of our kids. And I will take those lessons for the next 2 years and hopefully further. So with that, Christine Miller, for the last 4 years, we have this for you. Just get them in order and then I'll walk that way. Mr. Ryan Clayton, the last 3 years. Ryan, thank you. Mr. Rod Wagner, thank you for your last 4 years. And Mr. Jefferson, thank you for the last 4 years and 4 before that.
Thank you. I can't speak for everyone, but I can say that I'll miss together. Hopefully, working towards the future of our future citizens. So, everybody that's on the board and coming on the board, carry on. Let's see, information and proposals. Reports from student representatives to the board. Who wants to be first?
Okay. So for this month's meeting, we were asked to report back to the board on the things that we as students think have been positive during this year. With all the changes that we have experienced this year, the main thing that I am happy about is that we are able to go to school in person. In August, many people were worried that because of COVID-19, we weren't going to be able to attend school, but instead continue with remote learning. I asked the students at Southeast what they thought was the most positive thing that has happened this school year. And many told me that they were happy to be able to attend school, but also be able to have sports. Being able to have a sports season is a huge positive that the students are thankful to have. I'm also glad that fall sports have been able to happen and excited to cheer on Torrington and Southeast in the state championship football game. Another thing that has been a positive is that if students are unable to be at school in person, then they have the option of being remotely present in class and complete their assignments from home. With all the restrictions that have been put in place for this school year, many students are happy to be back in school and taking part in all of the activities. The senior students at Southeast are happy to be able to have a senior year at school and enjoy high school for the last year. I hope that we will be able to continue to attend school in person and that I can finish out my senior year as well.
Thank you. Kelly?
Today, we just completed our 57th day of school this year. We have already been in school longer than what we were shut down for. That alone is a great experience considering we started the school year all thinking we wouldn't even make it a month, and here we are 3 months later still going. Granted, it is a different year. I feel fortunate that my classmates and I and students across the district are able to do the things we have all done so far. Fall sports are basically wrapped up, but as we are in the last week of the football season, how great is it that this year Goshen County will be hosting not one, but 2 state championship games this weekend. Considering how this year has been and all the effort and debate that went into whether we would even have sports, this is an amazing accomplishment and a much-needed boost of school spirit all across the county. They may not be my school, but I know we are all rooting for them and wish them the best of luck. I sent a message to a variety of lingual students to see what they thought has been their best experience so far this year. A lot of times teachers may not think students appreciate all the time and effort that they put in to help us succeed. But as one of my peers responded to what their experience was, he stated how good the teachers are at jumping in to help students who may be in quarantine or learning remotely. Many others responded with homecoming and sports seasons being their best experience so far. I think that even with COVID, those would still be the same answers because who doesn't love homecoming? Everyone appreciated that homecoming and the senior nights were also moved up earlier in the fall to ensure we got to have those experiences. I truly feel that we could all agree that our best experience this year has been to just be able to be in school after being locked down for so long, and we have all gained a much greater appreciation for school and everything it took to get us here.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to echo a lot of what friend Callie said, but yeah, just being able to be in school and see our teachers and friends in person has been amazing. I know, I think a lot of students have realized just how much work the teachers are putting into us as students. Just watching how they have to manage Zoomers and people in person and just everything, and how much work they're putting into giving us students the quality education that we're getting has been amazing and so eye-opening for a lot of the students in school. Personally, it's been amazing because I wasn't sure at the end of last year if I'd be able to do my all-state music audition or if I'd be able to go to state cross-country or state tennis, and I've got to do all 3 of those things, plus more, and that's been incredible and really nice. And I think a lot of the students are realizing just the true quality of the education in person and how we had to deal with that online last year. I think the students are really appreciating the amount of work that the teachers do.
Thank you, ladies. It's very nice to hear the positive sides of things right now, especially as 2020 is coming to the end and getting back, trying to find the positive. I know I do, so I appreciate that outlook. Item 2, discussion of Wyoming School Board Association proposed resolutions for 2020 delegate assembly. You will find the description of these resolutions on page 4. And as I read through these, I see that there are 5 resolutions to consider, and 3 of them will be offered in a consent agenda, and 2 of them separately. So I thought maybe we could go through and discuss the 3 in the consent agenda together, and then the other 2. Who are our WSBA delegates? And Catherine, okay. So I'm sure they can, from our conversation, gather our thoughts and feelings and carry those forward. So the consent agenda, there are 2 mandatory age resolutions and 1 about confidentiality of school safety discussions. The first resolution would change the attendance age, increase the compulsory attendance age to 18. And that is from 16. The second one would change the minimum age from 7 to 6. And so, I mean, I think these things are all on the resolution list with the USDA every year. Those 2. The third one would, the resolution to allow school safety discussions to be held in executive session. So I don't know if all of you have read those. If you have questions, you want to discuss them with yourselves. I think that the WSBA feels like those will pass pretty easily. That's why they're on the consent agenda. What do you all think? How do you feel about that?
Madam Chair, as far as the age of 18, I think that I agree with that change. I would be a little concerned on the second, from the age of 7 to 6. That's just, you know, year is a big difference. However, you know, in talking to some families that have that age, you know, they did believe that their students would be able to actually make that change without too much of it. So I guess for myself, I'm leaning more towards actually agreeing with that well, from what I'm hearing from different families.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I agree with the age increase to 18, but starting kids at 6 years old, I just don't feel that they're mature enough at that age to start going to school. They're going to have all these years of school ahead of them anyway. And you know that we don't need the school raising our children. The families need to raise them. They're going to have enough years in school by themselves. And so I'm not very much in favor of starting kids at 6 years old. Thank you.
Any comments? So for the delegates, the dropout age of 18 or whatever graduation we never have to, I'm in support of that. The mandatory attendance age, lowering it to 6. I think most kids are in school by then anyway, but I don't really necessarily need to take away anyone's choice when to start that, so I wouldn't necessarily agree with number 2 either. And the confidentiality of school safety discussions, I think that's really, really important. Because there are some safety issues that we have private, and we should be able to discuss those in executive session. Any other comments? Ms. Patrick?
I was just going to add that I am like Trustee Wagner. I'm fine with raising the maximum age to 18, but some of our kids who have a behavioral disorder identification or an emotional disorder identification should have the option of waiting until they're 7, until they have a little bit more maturity and have learned some more coping skills and behavioral skills to deal with being in school. And so I favor leaving the minimum age at 7 rather than changing it to 6, just because we have some of those challenges with the younger kids. Thanks.
Anybody else on the consent agenda? Okay, so the next resolution will be changes to the number of school board trustees. And what this would do, I think you know just read it because it's hard to explain. Those ones are just pretty simple, but this one I think I'll just read. Be it resolved that the Wyoming School Board Association supports a process in which school boards may increase or decrease the number of trustees serving on the local school board without having to use the cumbersome reorganization process contemplated by Wyoming law. The rationale: communities are a dynamic and ever-changing part of all Wyoming city and county. A board should be large enough to get the board's work done, yet small enough to work effectively as a team to communicate, deliberate, and function as a cohesive group. Currently, there's a lack of clarity as to the process that would allow our school boards to adjust their number of trustees. The only statutes that exist now are those that call for a reorganization of the school district, a difficult and cumbersome process. With many of the boards, the numbers were set years ago under different circumstances. Boards across the state find themselves unable to adjust their trustee positions and operating conditions. The recommendation is no recommendation. The WSBA recommends neither for or against. What are the feelings of this group?
I guess my question would be, what would be the mechanism suggested to allow, to make that process easier? To read through this, they don't offer any suggestions, just that what's currently there is too hard. So are they suggesting that we propose a new statute, or, I guess those are questions that are probably going to have to come up in discussion. I'm all in favor of making things easier, giving that rationale. But there definitely needs to be more guidance as to how to accomplish that, and what, making it more black and white.
Other comments?
Madam Chairman, I hope that they would leave it up to the individual districts to choose their boards and the number of board members. We had a discussion in the past administration trying to cut our board members down to 7, 9, and I just don't think that's a very good idea. Look at all the number of people that run for this and representation across our district. And I think it's where we have a better cross section and more people involved, we get a better outcome. And that's just my opinion.
I would be supportive of changing the process, so it doesn't have to be reorganization of the entire district. But there does need to be a document process. It can't be willy-nilly up to each group. So that would be my comment to our delegates, that, as Mr. Jefferson said, we need more clarification.
I agree.
Anybody else? Okay, the last resolution, proposal for a one-penny sales tax for the school foundation program account. I don't know necessarily have to read this because it's very long. I think we understand what the one-penny sales tax is. And according to this resolution, it would raise, I see, 150 million in additional revenue. I assume that's per year for public education, and it would go to the state school foundation program account. Is there a discussion about this one?
My comment would be that with the state having an impending budget crisis, that I think we're going to have to look at alternative sources of revenue and budget cuts over the next period of years. And this might be a way, as the resolution states, to have some of that burden shared with our heavy tourism industry. Having some out-of-state revenue help fund our schools. I would maybe be supportive of this resolution.
Other comments? I tend to be not in favor of any new drag taxes. In this case, where we are hitting a budget crisis, I do also agree it would be nice to share with our staters that are in our state. But I guess I don't, without seeing a funding model for the schools, it's kind of difficult to say whether this is something that we need or something that we don't need. Of course, it's a resolution that the WSBA passes that goes along with it. They use kind of guidance from the legislature to know how the WSBA feels. It doesn't mean it will happen. But my tendency is to say no new taxes, depending on what we get into a funding model. Any last comments on those resolutions? Okay, we'll move on to number 3. Information on EWC dual and concurrent classes and additional virtual education courses by Dawn Field.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I can't be there in person tonight. I'm at home, obviously. I would just, a couple of months ago, we had parents come to the school board requesting information to have additional courses added through Edmentum. And I was asked to share our procedures and why we use the current procedures that we do. So for The dual and concurrent enrollment courses, they're very easy. Actually, we can have those approved through the Wyoming Department of Education, very easy. We use BOCES funding to pay for those. And so adding a EWC course is extremely easy for us. Basically, the counselors do a really good job with kids, get that information to us. We present that to the Department of Education. We present a syllabus, we present the course request form, and WDE I have never seen them reject a college course for Hathaway or for approval of a course in our course offerings. When you go into undergrad courses, it's a little different. So we currently have a policy, 6141, the Curriculum Council policy, where we start that process actually about this time of year, and we meet to discuss any new undergrad courses that we want to offer for next year. So we meet as a team and we discuss cost, we discuss curriculum, we discuss how many students this would impact. And so once it goes through our curriculum council, it comes to you in February or March for a final approval to add new curriculum. After that, it actually goes on to the Wyoming Department of Ed. And the Wyoming Department of Ed requires that every course we offer here has a certified teacher from Wyoming that teaches that course. And so any courses that we choose to offer are due to WDE for any virtual courses by July 31st. So we can't technically add additional courses after July 31st. This year, they did waive that due to the COVID issues and schools bringing on, but normally and typically we have a July 31st deadline with them for any virtual courses. WDE requires that we turn in a very extensive syllabi for the courses and very extensive alignment to state standards. And it is very, very rigorous. And then once they approve the course, then it also has to be approved through Hathaway. So sometimes those are rejected back to us to make changes. So adding an undergraduate course, as was requested 2 months ago, is really difficult after July 31st for this coming year. Now, for a future year, it is possible, but we want to take into consideration the other side of this also. And the other side of this is the budgetary side of it. So for every course that we offer, we have to have a Wyoming certified teacher. And I visited with Mrs. Cates and we did some figures, because whether Edmonton's teachers, an Edmonton teacher teaches the course or one of our teachers teaches the course, we're at about $8,000 that it costs us per course that we add. So we have to look at our budget and how many students that would impact before we would add any additional courses. And we know in these trying times that it gets tough, but our counselors work really, really hard with students to determine courses that we have multiple kids wanting to take, so that impacts our bottom line a little bit less, so we can offer more to kids. And the other piece that I don't know that if you're aware of is we're not allowed to charge tuition for any students taking additional courses in the district. That's against the Wyoming statutes. So we can't just allow, we can't just have kids pay for the courses either. It makes it very difficult. So we just wanted to fill you in on why we could not just approve those courses as requested by that parent. And every school district in the state goes through the same process once it reaches the Wyoming Department of Ed. So we didn't know if you had any questions about that or concerns.
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you for the information, that's all.
Absolutely, and we wanted to offer it to them, we just couldn't. So thank you for giving me this time.
Okay, now we need an update on the Smart Start Plan, section 1B.
So, a little over 2 weeks ago, we reviewed Tier 1B. As part of that, one of the major changes that we wanted to take a look at in Tier 1B is our access to our buildings. When we first wrote our Smart Start Plan in August, in Tier 1B, what was one of the recommendations was to not have out of school activities in our facilities. Usually we didn't know what type of cleaning was going to be needed, how we would go about this, what type of cost. After reviewing what we had gone through in the previous 3 months for school, what would be needed in order to appropriately clean, we came to the decision as a committee that it would be advantageous in 2 ways, that we could accomplish the task with minimal cost and still do it in a safe manner to allow outside organizations to use our facilities. This is pretty important for us in Goshen County because, as you know, many other counties and many other school districts across the state have a rec center that is not necessarily directly related to the school district, where many of these youth organizations, many of these other activities take place, where we don't have that. We have our school buildings that really pretty much act as recreational centers for our youth programs and activities. So in the end of our Tier 1B, you'll notice that we did add a significant amount of information for outside organizations to go through, and actually when they're utilizing our facilities. And it's spelled out pretty specifically in regards to what the expectations are, how we can cooperate with each other to make sure we're utilizing the facilities in the appropriate manner, and they're taking part of the same mitigation strategies that we're using during the day. We know those mitigation strategies are very effective because our numbers have indicated so. Even though we've had a significant increase in our community and in our school, which is extremely concerning right now, the spread in the school is very minimal because of the strategies that we're using. Unfortunately, those same strategies are not being used in our community, and that's why we're seeing this significant uptick. And it is endangering what we're doing in our buildings right now, because obviously we are affected by what happens in our community, but we can confirm through what we contact trace and all of those things that spread is not occurring in our school buildings at this time. Is there a chance? Absolutely. And that's why it's very, very important that we continue to reiterate in our buildings the use of face coverings, the use of hand washing, social distancing at all times, because those strategies work. What we're finding again, and this week, if you would ask me a week and a half ago, I thought we were doing fantastic. We were moving along, it was manageable, and then in the last 2 weeks, it has mushroomed. And I have extreme concerns on our numbers, especially this week as we see the attendance data, and not only necessarily the attendance data that we see from our students, but how it affects our staff. Because students that we're finding, it is mostly quarantine, and not necessarily significant positive cases relating to that. But when you also include our staff members and our lack of substitutes, that's what the piece is really important about. Because at some point in time, it's not going to be how many students we have. It's going to be, are we going to have enough adults to absolutely serve the students in the building? And kind of going back to this, we are reviewing this week our Tier 2A, Tier 2B, and Tier 2Cs. Those committees are getting together this week to just review, because not only as I referenced the changes for the use of outdoor activities on our facilities, but there were some things that we found where we either decided this wasn't an effective implementation strategy, or this was more effective and we wanted to clarify some things. So there were some things that we want to be, as you take a look, that were more or less time discrepancies, not resulting in significant changes, but resulting in changes in either grammar or the way it was conveyed. But the major changes, I kind of pointed out, was the organizations and outside organizations using our facilities. And again, as we kind of implemented use of our mitigation strategies, we're very confident I am concerned with winter sports because that is a different type of situation. We did have a review in one of our middle school programs that started off because we had a positive case come out. And it really emphasized, as I did with one of the organizations that I met last Friday, there can't be a break from using those strategies. There can't be the time in which in wrestling, it's okay to have you and your partner and not have your face covered. But if you're not in that activity and you're getting ready to leave, or you're having a team meeting afterwards, having those face coverings, social distancing is the difference between having a season and not having a season. Because honestly, if we're doing the video and having that team have to quarantine, it was the difference in time period and things, and those are the things that make the difference and result in quarantine. As you probably have heard, the state health department has stopped immediate contact tracing. That has been significant for us. Last week, we did our met with our school nurses and their administrators, and that can't function for us in Goshen County. If we don't do anything about contact tracing and we just let it go, we would be having to make significant changes in our school community. Fortunately, we have some outstanding school nurses in our district that have taken on contact tracing on their own, in addition to all the other duties that we're expecting them to do. And we got together, we designed forms and notification system that our school nurses are actually, when they're contacted or when they have knowledge of a positive case, they're, along with the administrators, are conducting contact tracing on our own school system and notifying those close contacts of when they need to quarantine and what next steps they need to take. Because that's the difference. That's going to make the difference between us having to change from full in person to the hybrid approach. If we do nothing, I can guarantee you, based on the spike that we've had in the last week and a half, we will be forced to do something. Not that we want to. That's the absolute last thing I want to do. But we're going to be forced because of the sheer percentages that we're seeing in increases and the results that we're seeing in our community. That's a scary situation. And you can ask any one of our positive, most recently some of our positive cases, if this is just a flu. It's not. It's not. I mean, I can guarantee you, I got off the phone with one of my employees today, and the last 3 days have had that absolutely horrible for him. And he and his wife. And it is not the flu. We have to take it seriously. We can do this, and we can maintain what we're doing by taking appropriate steps. But if we ignore it, I guarantee steps are going to be forced upon us. And so please take that to heart when you're out in the community. As schools, we're doing a very good job. We're not perfect. Things are happening. Our administrators have been doing helping with contact tracing from the very beginning. And that's been the difference of why we're able to do what we do. So we'll see and have those updates on the other tiers and how we can adjust those, but I wanted to share that tier 1B update with you as soon as we have that done, because that is a significant change as we rely on outside organizations. But I'll entertain any questions on those changes also.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move to number 5, school presentation and student artwork by Southeast Schools.
Well, good evening, members of the board. As always, I'm pleased to be here and have a bit of time on your agenda this evening for a presentation regarding some exceptional learning that's occurring at Southeast Schools. Before I make those introductions, I'd just like to take a moment to thank Mr. McClellan and Mr. Wagner, Mr. Clayton, Mrs. Miller. Thank you for your service to the students and staff of Goshen County School District. You've seen some of our best of times and some of our worst of times, but I appreciate each and every one of you for the individual voices that you bring to the board and the work that you've done on behalf of of each student and staff member in our district. I'd also like to share with our student board reps very quickly. Thank you for the comments that you made regarding those positive things that are happening in our school system. I can assure you that your teachers would have the exact same comments that you did. The number one thing that they are excited about is the fact that they too have had opportunity to have you in face-to-face learning, and we hope that continues. And so tonight I'll get on with the school presentation. Oftentimes we bring presentations to the board that include some degree of data to represent learning that's occurring in schools. We spend a lot of time talking about YTOP and ACT and some of those assessment measures. And tonight I'm really excited to introduce an individual that will be making the school presentation. And we won't talk about the learning that's measured by ACT or YTOP. We're going to talk about learning that's measured by real life experiences. We've had ag education and FFA people in front of the board often. And tonight I'm proud to introduce Mr. Jay Clapper to present, to make our school presentation about his portable farm concept that has gained national recognition. And so Mr. Clapper, if you would come forward, and appreciate the work that you have done the past 3 years. And Mr. Clapper and one of his students will make the presentation for Southeast. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for having us. This is a pretty exciting thing for me. Again, I think, again, just the word of immeasurable learning. And so it's been a very exciting thing. So I guess, to be honest, just to kind of get it started, for most of my career, I've had an opportunity to create what's called the Adopt a South program. And so when I first tried to get it, I couldn't get kids to participate because they didn't have the resources. When I grew up, we had all those things, and a lot of kids didn't. So if I couldn't get the kid to the farm, then I'd bring the farm to the kid. And so we built a farm on a trailer. When I moved here to Wyoming, we had an opportunity. First one came from the Wyoming Port Council. Farm Credit sponsored our second one. And so we operated on that for a long time. And then it grew into corn planter, and then it got bigger. And then Wesco and Land O'Lakes actually generated or contributed $10,000 for us last year, which we really expanded. And then an ag teacher said, Jay, you need to quit being an idiot and call the Department of Ed because there's a big grant out there, and this year we got $25,000. So anyway, it's getting big, and I'm going to explain more here. But I'm going to have this young man, Mr. Justin Clayton, speak a little bit because he just recently participated in this and did a very, very good job. I'm extremely proud of this young man. So with that, I'm going to introduce Justin Clayton.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Clapper and this program for letting me experience this great opportunity. And this is where I got this out. First day, I had her a lot longer than I expected. I was getting a little nervous because she was lack, because I thought she was going to have the baby sooner, but it took her a lot longer. But it all ended up good because she had 15, but 3 died. After that, Mr. Clapper came out here and showed me how to work the pigs. We flipped the teeth, the tails, shot them with iron, notched the ears for a numbering system, and castrated the males.
If you would, the one on the left, if you can click it and see if that video will run. Mr. Foster, there we go. So we don't have sound, but there's Mr. Justin castrating. One of the things as we do this, and that's going on, is I try to make sure, and Justin, I won't take away your deal here, but as that's watching, we're going through that. But I try to make sure it happens that every student performs every skill. And usually, I should say usually, I would say about 1 out of 6 times they kind of refuse this part. Justin didn't hesitate. He jumped in and he did it because it's just real world. And did a great job. And So anyway, you can see that video, okay? And there we go. So if you want to go ahead and can talk about your babies.
I had 7 gilts and 4 barrows. I plan on selling the 7 gilts and raising the 4 barrows, selling the 3 of them and keeping 1 for myself. And yeah, that's about it.
For those of us that aren't familiar with your terminology, can you explain what they?
Oh, the gilts are the females and the barrows are the males.
I'm the city boy, sorry.
All right. Okay, Justin, thank you.
All right.
Okay, and Justin also has participated in our poultry program. So basically, a lot of things. I had an individual call me from North Carolina. The national attention, I didn't even know we were going to get national attention, and so forth. It was a weird thing. But anyway, what I told him, I said, first of all, the programs are in place. What this has allowed me to do is provide resources for kids that cannot do that, because that's been the toughest part in my career, is to watch people who want to participate, but they don't have the resources. Throughout my entire career, and I'm on 28 years now, we've done the Adopt a Sow program. I have a program where the kid gets 10 free chickens, they raise them up, and then I would help them butcher them. We've done bottle calves, and I don't know what the numbers are, but on the chickens, it's been well over 300, the calves well over 200 in my time. And again, that frustration of the kids that can't participate. So what this grant has allowed us to do, and right here, this is kind of a neat one, and you cannot believe how much we've used this thing. But part of the poultry processing thing is that this facility actually provides either the kid, myself, or any families what they need to be a success. If you've ever had to do that, I grew up, that was part of what you lived on. But anyway, this is very, very efficient. And so actually we get to do this in class. And then we just had 2 young men that actually got hired and got overpaid to help a family. I told her, I said, you don't need to pay that much. And she goes, well, I was just so damn happy. But anyway, so they actually get can hire out and perform these services. So again, very, very real world. As we continue here, so we got next. So we started, if you will, we just get some old trailers, and then we just modify them. Everybody says, well, where's your blueprint? And I said, there isn't one. We just had a problem every day and we solved it. And what I really enjoyed was that camaraderie with the students, and here's our daily problem, how are we going to fix it? And lots of inventions. Some good, some bad. And so there's the finished product of this, and still tweaking it a little bit. And there's the young man, this is when they got hired out. And again, they're just through all the steps that go through there. Go on that. Okay, so anyway. Okay, and then we made, I made 2 portable barns. So the idea was, again, what's always been back in my mind, and just to be blunt, one of the things that has killed some of the projects is families are like, well, I would love to participate, but we can't be trapped at home. And so what I tried to design is a system that they can leave for the weekend. So you take Justin's Adopt a Sow program. We put super safe waters in there with heaters so they can't freeze. It's insulated. If they you can plug it in with electricity. If weather goes bad, we're still probably pretty safe. And I don't even know if Justin knows this, but he and his family went on vacation. They did everything they were supposed to, just went for an overnight camping trip, and somebody called them and said, well, hey, there's nobody watching. I said, guess what? Don't need to. They did what they were supposed to, and they were fine. And so it worked out real well. So these portable barns, in the front half is the actual barn part. And then I opened up the back so that air could flow through. And again, kind of see what we started with that route. So there's the interior barn, and that would be insulated, wired. That's the back half, and then the left is the front half. And like I said, pretty bulletproof is my goal. So they have the feeders, and you can see my little water on top, again, so it can't freeze. And then we expanded. We built in a beehive trailer, and that's it's actually 98% done. But that was the goal, was to start bees this year. With COVID, I decided that would not be wise, but it got a lot of kids excited about this. And again, that can actually travel around. What one of the things in the back of my mind was is they can actually work fields. If you were down in certain areas, you actually get paid to work let's say like cantaloupes with watermelons and things like that. We don't have almonds here. And that's what we started with, and you got to see basically the finished product. Okay, the one on the right is the finished product. Okay. And then this, we had a 4-row corn planter donated. I built a trailer. If anybody knows anything about equipment, you would have to load that onto a trailer and unload it, jack it up, get then back your tractor up to it, and then go do your job. I designed this that you can actually hook to it right from home with a tractor. Okay, so I can pull it to your place, and if the kid has a tractor, they can just hook right up to it. Pioneer Seed, Brett and Linda Meyer, they donated some Roundup Ready corn seed, so it's real neat, and has everything they need, including the raccoon fence, hot fence, all those good things. And Harrison Hall has been doing it for 3 years and has had tremendous success, and it's just been a really, really good program. So and it even got the ability to pull a ditch. Right, and there's Harrison. That was year 1. And then we built a portable poultry bar, and this actually was donated to us. And then we took a trailer that we bought and modified it and made it work. You can see on the right now, I have 3 kids with chickens right now, Justin and Cooper and Dawson Mullick. And so they're raising some chickens, and that will be part of it. You can see inside there, I've actually got 2 sources of heat. One is a backup source of heat. Again, I'm just trying to make this thing bulletproof. Okay, so there. And that might be it. Okay, so again, and then we also have potential for, you won't believe this, a worm farm. Some ag teacher told me, he said, I've got a whole bunch of these things, I'm going to throw them away, and I drove to Sheridan and brought them back. So you cannot believe what they are. They're just amazing. So there's potential there, just lots of different things. And so the ultimate goal is I want my students getting dirty. Next week, I'm hoping to go out and get 7 kids, 2 different calves, 2 calves apiece. I think they'll be better in pairs. And this program with the grant, I can actually pay for the calves and the first bag of milk, which is going to be a tremendous opportunity for these kids. Anyway, that's the program, and that's where we're at right now. So please bombard me with questions.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say, bravo, as a former ag engineer myself, the hands-on part of it, what kids can learn, and the surprise along the way, it's amazing. So great job.
Well, and for me, I'm old school. I mean, massively old school. One of the things that's always amazing, I think back to, well, it actually doesn't matter. When we do the poultry program, I think of one year in particular in my last school, I had 6 kids participate, and they all come to my place. We probably went through 55 chickens. I had 6 more kids show up just to help. And, you know, we keep saying these kids are so worthless. I'm gonna tell you something, because they didn't do the same things we did. Guess what they want to? We're just not giving the same opportunities. The kids are awesome. And I've got stories upon stories about how these kids just step up to the plate and do these dirty, nasty jobs. I'm sorry, but it's real, folks. That's how we get food. All right, and they step up and doing it. And they want to learn. And so that to me is exciting. And so this thing allows me to allow kids that just don't have the resources. So that's, to me, is exciting. It is. It actually is reinvigorated my career. So, yeah. All right.
I'd just like to commend you, Mr. Clapper, for going the extra mile, for using your innovative knowledge to help kids with hands-on learning. I think that's so important. Somebody might call it old style learning. I call it great learning. And I just want to commend you and thank you for going the extra mile for our kids. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And you say innovative, I'm sitting there thinking of all the mistakes I've made too. So, but no, to me, it's just fun. You know, there's nothing more exciting than to watch the young man that's behind me. I get excited talking about, and he was nervous tonight and did a great job. This is not his comfort zone. He gives them all things an egg a day, and he's talking about how he cleans the pen and all the different issues. And we're talking about real world. You should have seen us having to avoid pretty wild sow when we were working those pigs, because let's just say you don't get in with her now or until she's dead. So, yeah.
Well, I'd like to actually echo Mr. Waver's comments. I appreciate you really just being able to see fights so ready to the reality of what, I mean, you can come up here and talk about it, but those slides are really doing a good job. My question is, if I could.
You bet. Just come on.
So Justin, how many years have you been through this? Have you been?
This is my first year.
Your first year?
Yeah.
With the sound.
Yeah, with the sound. Last year I did chickens, which was a very good opportunity too.
Okay, so
Yeah, this is my second year doing this entire.
So in all of this, what are you getting out? I mean, what's the most important thing that you're getting out of this?
Well, one, you get great opportunity and experience. I didn't know pretty much anything about this, but Collaborate helped me out, and I really appreciate that. And two, I'm getting money out of it, so.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I hate to put you on the spot, but I appreciate you.
No, you're good. Thank you.
And I would just like to add, you said this, you made a lot of mistakes, but there's nothing more important than teaching children. It doesn't stop when you make a mistake.
Oh, sure.
You just figure it out and move on.
Well, I tell my students, you're looking at the biggest, when I'm in there, I said, you're looking at the biggest failure in the world, because I failed in most of these. But no, it is fun, and getting students, you know what, if I get students excited, this will happen. So this ain't just me. So, and it is fun. I don't want to guess right now, but when we do preliminary budget, Justin should do quite well. He should make $1,000 on this pretty easy profit, and that's, of course, it's pretty rare to have 15 babies, so 12. So, and he broke the record. So, usually if you get 8 or 9, you're doing really well. Like I said,
You partially answered my question. This has really been enlightening for me to see. Since I moved to Goshen County, I've been told that agriculture is king here, of course. And the question I would have is, what resources do you need from us as trustees to ensure that the program is sustainable and that it can perpetuate itself in our county to promote this further?
Well, I'd like to answer that 2 ways. One, in an honorary way, never ask an ag teacher, what he needs, because he'll have a list. But anyway, but number 2, I thank you for that. To be honest, I would like to make sure I put together something very professional. Right now, I'm thinking about sustainability and how to keep those things going. So to be honest, if you don't mind, I want to wait a little bit. The other thing that's neat is this grant is available for 3 more years. So I don't know if I could give it back to back, but I know in that office, there's a lady watching us right now who's her number 1 choice for the grant. And hello, Elaine. So hopefully she's watching us. But so anyway, so that might be we'll see. And the other thing is just, to me, it's just time and just know that, hey, some things go wrong and we'll figure it out. And I did a poll on that. That would be very interesting for you to read how many kids are ready to jump into this. And very high numbers, amazingly, because we also are looking at a sweet potato thing. I mean, this thing is bigger than I can do this short time. But the other thing that I think, just to plant a seed, I do have one family that started with Adopt a Sow and now have a very viable business. In fact, doing very, very well with us. And that's actually happened numerous times throughout my career. As a teacher, you plant seeds, but you don't get to see the harvest. And when this made national news, I had numerous students come back and share how they continued from these programs. So that's been nice. And I know for myself, we didn't even start raising hogs, but the neighbor gave us 3 suckling pigs. And we enjoyed it so much, we ran a 20-cell operation for about 6 or 7 years from those 3 suckling pigs. So when you get a taste ag, you might jump in and continue. It's a big industry. Well, guess what? It's our foundation. So that's it. All right, I sure appreciate your time, and I actually really appreciate that comment. So, all right. Well, feel free, and if you get on Southeast FFA website or Facebook, whatever, they'll reach in to try to put some updates on there. Okay. All right. Thanks.
job conversion trying to do, so that's exciting. Okay, public forum. Do you have any? No public forum tonight. We'll move into consent agenda. Are there any items that trustees wish to pull?
Madam Vice Chair, I'd like to pull item E.
Item E, so we'll pull item E. Any others? If not, can I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda without item E?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda minus item E, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item E, accept donations as presented. Donation for THS landscaping project in memory of Jewel Apple from the Apple family, the Jewel Apple Memorial and Landscaping Plus, including goods and services in a total amount of $9,500. And also donation from the Southeast Booster Club to Southeast Athletics in the amount of $1,250. Is there a motion?
And Chair, I move to accept these donations.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Madam Chair, a couple of weeks ago, Trustee Saucedo, Trustee McClellan, and myself met with Superintendent Kramer, Mr. Christensen, and Mrs. Cates over at THS to go over a preliminary design. Some of the questions that came out at that time was the longevity of the donation and the potential costs that it could bring to the school district. In looking at District Policy 3380, and especially in the administration regulation, any donation of this potential magnitude would have to have a purpose consistent with goals of education programs, and also not result in unacceptable continuing costs to the district as far as maintenance goes. The gift is proposed, it's beautiful, it truly is. But some of our discussion came around as to possibly the continuing memorials at any of our schools or facilities. How and what length does the district want to be liable for the upkeep of those? Who gets to have a memorial, who doesn't? That could bring some difficulty to the district over time. So maybe this is a policy that could be visited and potentially revised if it was so warranted. Not to take anything away from the donation, because truly it is. Our school district lost a very valuable member. And to say that this is anything against Mr. Otto or his family is not correct. It is just something that I believe should be discussed probably a little bit more in depth prior to going into a landscape renovation at THS.
Is there other discussion?
There is, and I guess I just want to piggyback on a little bit of what Trustee Clayton was bringing up. So, and again, I don't know if this is for further discussion in the policy of public gifts is going to be brought up. But right now, I guess I'm going to ask the question. So when we're talking about the policy of gifts, public gifts to the schools, is this also to include memorials? Because for me, I guess what I'm looking at is the request of the Apple family compared to the donation of $1250 for Southeast Athletics. I'm seeing those two as somewhat separate. And I guess when I'm talking about public gifts, I'm not necessarily including in my, I guess my concept of public gifts to schools as a memorial. And I guess if we're talking about memorials, I would see that memorial have a policy that stands alone Because as Trustee Clayton had mentioned, I think as a district, you know, in some cases, some memorials may be offered with the best of intentions. However, you know, a memorial may be a source of re-traumatization in certain cases. And as a district, I think we need to be careful in approving and in taking into consideration those issues. So if this policy is to stand for memorials, I think that the language needs to be more clear, concise, and definitive, and even a possibility of a memorial committee be, I don't want to say made up, so that again those kind of issues can be thought of in making a decision as to whether or not the memorial or the gift can be accepted.
Other comments, questions?
As Trustee Clayton said, Mr. Appel was truly an amazing person and a huge loss to the district. I worked with him closely at the hospital through CRT, and he was simply an amazing individual. I would hesitate as well with accepting a memorial, not necessarily for the long-term financial implication, but for, as Trustee Saucedo mentioned, re-traumatization. We've had a number of losses in the district. And I think we need to make sure we're being consistent in how we accept memorials, how we memorialize those who we've lost that are very close, whether student or teacher or staff member. And before we would accept this, I think we would want to make sure our policy is consistent.
Other comments, questions? Can somebody tell me where the memorial will be? I know it says south side of the building. You know?
So it'll be where the parking lot is on the south side, there's a green space between the sidewalk and the building there, facing south. If you went directly off the front of the building, down straight towards the parking lot, walking out from the front door, it would be on the right, so that green space between the building and the parking lot. That's where it is.
And the intent is, there's a table and benches, and I know this says trees, boulders, and I'm not sure what that other word says. Grasses, okay, so it's landscaping with stamped concrete and a table and benches.
Correct.
I guess one question, additional question. Having not sat at that meeting and not being completely familiar with this, is we're accepting a memorial. Is the expectation that his name is memorialized here, or that? Okay. So the answer to that question is yes.
I can speak to that if you'd like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the idea that they had, I think in terms of the actual memorial aspect of it, was that one of the quotes that Jewel was fond of would be laser engraved on the top of that table.
So, Mr. Christensen, you're saying that the only, it wouldn't say his name, or that we just have the quote on the table?
That was my understanding in visiting with both Robin and Tammy, was that they were intending that it would be a quote that Joel used in the class, or a quote that he used in rodeo that meant something to the students. But that was going to be engraved on top of the table. That's all that they spoke of.
Is there any discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. Those in favor of accepting the donation as presented for the landscape project in memory of Joe Apple, and also donation to, from Southeast Booster Club to Southeast Athletics, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Or maybe I'm gonna pull that back. I can't.
Madam Chair, is there a reason why we're voting for both of those in the same vote?
There is, trustee Rosado, the reason is that's how the motion is made. Somebody, I can't remember who made the motion, but somebody could amend the motion and separate those, amend the motion to, for example, consider the donation just for the Southeast Booster Club and then do this one separately. We can certainly do that, but that's the right route forward.
Okay, so this goes back to my question as far as the policy for the gifts, public gifts to the schools. My question was, is this to cover memorials?
I think the answer to that is that we don't currently have a memorial policy. Is that correct?
I can still answer that. As a review code for the committee, as I look at number one, I would say that, and I'm looking at administrative regulation, I would say that actually this type of donation would fall under donation, would be considered under this policy. I also agree with trustee Saucedo that it would be more probably advantageous to actually separate those two, because I do, those are dramatically different. That a donation in kind to a specific organization is different than, per se, as outlined in number one, the purpose for which the gift is to be used, depending on the type of gift and entail within a brief statement. I think that is relatively broad in that. And so there might be some advantage in separating that out.
And I would move that we separate and again, that we, bring, I guess, the policy committee together to be able to actually make a policy regarding specifically memorials so that it's a standalone policy. Again, have more definitive language to make sure that we're doing this, with the concept of again, do no more harm in cases where, the loss of is to be in more tragic way. So, from this point, where we.
Would you be willing to make an amendment to the motion to consider one item and then one item, change the motion to be considered just one item? Then we can continue the action on that, and then we can go back and make another motion to the other item.
I do, Madam Chair, go ahead.
Mr. Jose can make the amendment. We don't have to change the motion. We can do either way.
I'd like to make a motion to separate the acceptance of the public gift to Southeast Athletic and separate that from the gift, the memorial gift of the Alpha family.
Okay, so I'm gonna say where you would.
Okay.
We're gonna move to amend the motion to consider only the Southeast Booster Club donation to Southeast Athletics. Is there a second? Okay, so we have an amendment, a motion for an amendment and a second. Is there any discussion on that? Those in favor of amending the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, so we have an amended motion to consider the donation from Southeast Booster Club to Southeast Athletics in the amount of $1,250. For any discussion? There's no discussion, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Now, would someone like to bring forth the motion? The other piece of that.
Madam Chair, I would like to move to table the acceptance of a donation for a memorial landscape project until we have done further policy investigation regarding creating memorials on campuses.
Is there a second? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table this item until a later time. Discussion? Those in favor of tabling this item, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the business. Consider approval of proposed revisions to district policy 3380, public gifts to schools, as presented on second and final reading. This is a bit ironic. The recommendation, the revisions. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Might I recommend that the trustees table this policy until the policy committee has had a chance to review it and discuss adjustments based on memorials, because I can read it now. It does appeal to memorials, and I think it's a question for the policy committee to discuss and determine if that is the intent, or if they would rather create an alternative policy that would also address the memorial piece and donations and stuff.
Is there discussion? Does anyone have any motion to table it?
I would make a motion to amend the original motion to table this policy until further investigation on memorials.
Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Okay, so the amendment will vote on, it will lead to amend regular motion to tabling this item. Is there discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay, so the amendment to the motion passes, and since we did it as an amendment, now we must vote on the motion, which is that we table the motion as amended, that we table this item until further research can be done. If there is. Those in favor of tabling this until a later date, when there is time to review, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries unanimously. That took a while too. Okay. Consider approval of proposed revisions to district policy 5114, suspension or expulsion of students on second and final reading. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion? Is there any discussion regarding the proposal to the district policy on the suspension or expulsion? Not. To vote. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item C, consider approval of proposed revisions to district policy 1260, sex offenders on school property, on second and final reading. The recommendation is to approve the revisions as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Is there any discussion? If not, those in favor of the proposed revisions to the sex offender on school property policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
A point of order, Madam Chair, did you wish to abstain from that vote?
Well, technically, yes. So one abstention. You're correct, Mrs. Patrick. New business. Item A, consider approval of purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of animal science education models and simulators for THS and Lincoln Fort Laramie Ag Ed classrooms. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Jesperson. Is there a second? I just say that when I was in that teacher, I would love to have a teacher awesome. And a great use of personal. Is there any other discussion? Okay, if you'd like to approve the purchase for the animal science education models and simulators, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, nay. Motion carries unanimously. I'm at topics for discussion. What does anyone have to bring before us? Student representatives?
I know I'd like to just say it was important for the kids to get through a sports season was a success. And I'd like to compliment all of our staff, all of our students for abiding by our rules. There was only one game that I went to at Southeast that both sides wore masks, and that was us illegal. So nice job. We sit outside the fence just so we don't take away any parents or family being inside the fence. And we sit on the other side of the visiting team. And last week, when an announcement was made about masks, that team actually made fun of our announcement. And I thought, well, that said something right there. But I also have a son-in-law who is a PD officer, went to the drinking game, he forgot his mask in his PD car, and he was turned away. So, nice job. So, yes, the only way we can keep this going is to do this.
Other discussion, Mrs. Happy, did you have something?
I was just going to mention to the board, do we want to, given the large turnover in our board, do we want to advance our evaluation of the superintendent to a special meeting next week, or do we want to stick with our traditional December evaluation schedule?
Well, speaking as a new member that came in 2 years ago in December and had to evaluate a superintendent, I had no basis to do that. And so I would agree with you. Yeah, we need to do it before this board meeting.
My perspective on that is we've been doing these evaluations in July and December for a very long time. And if we need to change the timeline, because this is an ongoing problem every 2 years, it's an issue. There are people that are elected that couldn't properly evaluate superintendents, haven't been here. But with that said, I'm not sure I think we should change the timeline. I think that the new people coming in would understand that they would only be able to evaluate the superintendent on the community and everything else would be people that had been on the board previously. That was my expectation when I came on board. And, I don't know, but I think that if we want to revisit the timing of those evaluations, it should be done. Then we would go to standard board calendar, so we know what's supposed to happen every month. And if we want to change the timing of that, we should do that, maybe not based on the number of elected people, like their personnel, whoever it is. I just feel like that's something that should be a board decision that should happen. These things happen every month, the same time every year. And that's the way we've been doing it for a long time. I do agree that it's difficult for new people to evaluate. Are there other comments on that?
Madam Chair, I totally respect what you have just put forward. Absolutely. Traditionally, I think the evaluation was done in December so that if the superintendent received poor evaluations, he or she could begin a job search starting in January. And I think that justification is no longer as strong as it used to be. And the other concern that I had is we always have that audit pre-report at our December meeting. And so we're stacking two kind of pre-meeting meetings in December, and that's a little bit onerous. But yes, you're right. We should create a calendar and stick to it. The press of events with COVID, et cetera, have kind of thrown us off our typical planning, discussion, conversation, work session schedule. So that's a bit of a justification as to why I brought it up this time. Thanks.
Yes, and I don't know, Mr. Kramer or Marcy, if either of you have the ability to answer the question, but the statute prohibit allowing citizens that are not yet sworn in executive session of the board. I would assume so.
I would agree with Marcy and I don't believe that that would be acceptable. I'm trying to think of any other reasons, but if it does not pertain to that specifically, I don't know that it would be within.
My recommendation then, from just my perspective, would be to have the evaluation, the sections of the evaluation that we are going to be reviewing in December, continue to hold the evaluation in December as it traditionally has been, and ask the outgoing trustees to complete the written documentation and turn it in prior to their board term expiration, if they would be so kind to do so. Then we would be able to incorporate their input into the evaluation while also respecting the process that has occurred through our election and the new appointed trustees.
That's a very sound recommendation.
Further discussion regarding this topic? So I think that the final decision of scheduling what, when, and how basically falls with input to Chairman Patrick. So do you have the information you need there, Mrs. Patrick, to plan?
And Madam Chair, the audio on this Zoom call is really not very good. So could you repeat your request, please?
Do you have enough information in this room to go forward with the planning?
I will be in contact with Mrs. Fritzler to forward materials to the board members to complete evaluations ASAP, and we'll get that process underway so that we can conduct that evaluation prior to our board meeting in December.
Okay, and she is on the call, and we've got paper copies here for everyone that they can take with them this evening.
Excellent.
We can take care of that piece of it and wait to hear from you on timing. Okay, other topics for discussion. What else do you want to talk about?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
if you don't mind, could I bloviate for a few minutes?
Did you what?
Run my mouth off for a few minutes.
Sure, get on your soapbox.
I just want to thank all the board members here. It's been a joy serving with you guys, getting to know you. Been a real privilege. And I just want you to know that I'll be praying for you each day, just as I do now, even though I'm not going to be on this board. I'm praying that this school is clean of COVID every day, and that God will lead you guys to do what's right for these kids because they're precious to us, the kids in this county. And I just can't overstate how great a job you guys have been doing. You really have done a fantastic job. And it's been a privilege to serve with you. And I just thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. Any other comments or topics to be discussed? Talk about some future meetings. The next regular board meeting will be Tuesday, December 8th at 7 p.m. But I'm sure a little bit sooner because of an audit meeting, correct? So we'll plan on showing up right at 7 because we have time when the agenda comes out. The WSBA annual conference is held virtually November 18th to 20th. If you wish to be registered to participate online, please let Lorraine know. The boardroom will also be available for those who wish to stream the conference with fellow board members. And I would suggest that we invite all of the newly elected board members as well. Anything else?
We can reach out to the board members.
And I would just highly recommend if you have not taken part in the WSBA conference, that you find time, especially the key parts of that agenda to attend because it is helpful and lots of information to be able to share there. Number 3, discuss scheduling a special meeting. I think that was for evaluation and we just did that. Are there any other future meetings that you're unaware of?
Nothing that is on the agenda this time.
Okay. Superintendent report.
So the agenda you received references our amendment as of today. I highlighted in that color if the school had less than the previous month, that's how I read. If it was in that printing kind of an off screen computer screen, it's very bright. That's bad. The schools that have increased in the previous month. As you will notice, there was a slight increase in overall enrollment in the district. Loss of 5 students from the previous month. There was a significant increase in in-person students, where we did have a reduction in remote and virtual. Almost actually half of our students that were remote and virtual decided to become in person. So that's why the number increased as significantly as it did. And then the homeschool number there in our corner at 116 homeschool students. And like I had questions on enrollment.
With those students that are enrolled in Platte River High School, would last year those have been in Torrington High School number?
That is correct, yes.
So if you combine, Torrington actually increased just slightly.
That is correct, yes.
To that extent too, there are, I think, 3 or 4 students in Platte River High School that were not in the district last year, would not have been in the district last year.
And Mr. Richardson, would any of those also be possibly from schools outside of Torrington, possibly Southeast or Middle?
We had some students come to Platte River School that had dropped out of schools. Both had dropped out from Torrington in previous years and had dropped out from schools in Casper and Gillette.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson, appreciate that. My second item on our report was the American Education is November 16th to 20th. We are working with our food service to provide digital package items for our teachers to show our appreciation for their work. And especially this year, as our student representatives alluded to, teachers' work this year is quite dramatically increased in how they accommodate remote students and in-person students and deal with COVID themselves and then deal with all the other things that are continuously coming at them. It's a great time to express our appreciation for them and the work they have done because it has been phenomenal And I think one of the major pieces, not only academic, because we know that that is our primary responsibility, but the emotional responsibility that they carry and support that they provide our students is significant. And I know we've continually talked about face-to-face learning for many students is the difference between success and not. And we're working extremely hard to maintain that and continue that because we know, there will be things that kids have to continually work at and feel that our teachers do a phenomenal job. I can't express an appreciation enough. And I know Marie is working with food service in regards to setting that up. I think we have. Yeah, absolutely. The other item that I had, major maintenance projects. This year, due to a change in board because of the election and the timing of it, it makes it a little bit difficult to utilize our schedule. And having the expectation that new board members come on, we're fortunate in this year that we just had two significant items that are not on the agenda, but we wanted to give an update tonight. So as we look towards that December, there's an opportunity for those new board members to have an opportunity to ask questions, gather information, and then for those board members that are continuing on the December meeting to have that information. Within that handout that I provided, there are two significant major maintenance items. One being the THS parking lot project. This project the planning of this project began last fiscal year, and then outlined under there was benchmark under contract for design and bidding. Our plan then is to advertise during late November and late December with a bid opening in December 17th. The contract award for January 12th at that board meeting. Contract benchmark at January 12th board meeting for construction administration, and then of course work to be completed this summer of 2021. The other significant possible expenditure for major maintenance if approved is the THS elevator. Engage with the engineer to evaluate the present elevator and design and bid replacement of the components. Hope is that the shaft and car can be retained, but many of the other components will need to be replaced. This would be a significant expenditure, as we know with elevators, prices continue to go up, and much of the parts in our current elevator are not able to be replaced in an affordable manner. And as is illustrated in that narrative of the $13,000 already put into the elevator as a result of school year, that would be more economically viable, even though there would be a significant increase in what would be for replacement, as opposed to continuing to put money towards a piece of equipment that is continuing to cost more and more, as opposed to one that would at least fulfill the needs and the requirements that we have. So what we'd like to do on that one is acquire engineer proposals for approval at the December 8th board meeting, engineer design project advertised, and contract award at the March board meeting, and work to be completed summer 2021. As I kind of stated, it's just an action, but it's important for you to kind of have those dates in mind and those things that you can ask more questions about. There will be further discussion regarding our committee meetings in regards to those projects and other projects that will be forthcoming, but these being so significant, need us to take a little bit of action earlier, as opposed to those other ones that can wait a little bit that we can go up for bid. And so once we have an opportunity to set up those committees at our December meeting, we'll continue to set up and work with those committees on major maintenance issues, but they are those projects that are up for evaluation at that time period are not under the tight schedule that these two projects would be, and so therefore it's a little bit more important to put those forward before the committees have an opportunity to meet under the new board guidance. Any questions on that handout? My last one, even though it's not written again, I want to take the opportunity to thank Trustee Wagner, Trustee McClung, Trustee Miller, Trustee Creighton for their years of service. It's something special for a superintendent and the board that hired him or her, and so I appreciate it. I got to know many of you during that process, and I can remember still, even though it was again, the spring 2 years away, I can still remember even specifically sitting with Ron at breakfast the day after the day. And I remember each one of you during that things and the questions you asked, and I appreciate it. Not only the support that you provided as trustee, but the support that you provided as friends and things that questions you asked regarding my family, and that's very meaningful to me. So I appreciate the time and commitment that it takes from you guys. It is not an easy job, thankless many times, to submit to what you have done and what you've done for your community. I have great respect for. So thank you very much for the time and you've shown in Goshen County. Thank you. That's all I have.
Is there anything else that comes before us this evening? If not, I declare this meeting adjourned.
Thank you for filling in for me, Chair Miller.
Well,
For the very last time, doggone you.
I hear you again. Oh, I found those paper